The following Encore episode of Probably True Solar Stories is dedicated to the veterans who protect our nation, our environment, and future generations. On the next episode of Probably True Solar Stories, we tell the story of a dog that is kidnapped out of the truck of a solar installer. A chase ensues, but we learn that the dog, the solar installer, and the dog napper aren't quite what they seem. Welcome back to Probably True Solar Stories. We have another solar noir story. Although this one isn't as dark as others, we tell the story of a dog napping from the dog's point of view, and there are some other surprises as well. This one is very kid-friendly, so feel free to turn up the sound as we roll that la-la music. Here we go. Rufus, the Solar Guard Dog, is written and read by Tor Solarfred Valenza. My name is Rufus. You may have heard about me in the news when I was dognapped. I am a special guard dog for the truck of a solar installer named Jim. My job is to watch for thieves who might take solar equipment or tools from my master Jim's truck. I do not eat. I do not sleep. I do not drink water, and I especially do not drink Jim's beer. I guard the truck. Jim says that I am a deterrent and a mascot. I am very large, I have large paws, and you know what they say, big paws, big poops. You thought I was going to say something else, didn't you? Actually, I do not poop or pee because DOG backward wanted me to be real, but not too real. Because some people, especially little people, want a dog, but they cannot take care of a dog. So that is why DOG backward did not make me anatomically correct. I have soft gray hair to pet and to hug. I have a white belly and pointy ears with a large maw. People say I look like a husky. I do not feel like a husky. I feel like Rufus. Jim won me at a carnival. My old carnival master hung me on a wall with other real, but not too real, huskies and smaller dogs that are not a guard dog like me. Because I am big and special, I was hung on the carnival wall for a long time, waiting for someone who deserved to have a special dog like me. My carnival master made it very difficult to be deserving. He said to Jim, "If you give me $2 and can shoot 10 duckies down in 1 minute, then he will give me to Jim." Poor duckies. They did not know that Jim was a sniper in Iraq. Jim does not talk about Iraq, and that's okay. He just shot the duckies and took me to his home, which became my home. Jim and I would sit on Jim's couch and watch TV together. Sometimes, when the movie was funny, he would pet me. Sometimes, when the movie was sad, Jim would cry, and then I would sit on Jim's lap and make him feel better. Jim used to own a real kind of husky named Rufus. Jim and Rufus worked together in Iraq, but then one day, Rufus became a hero and went back to DOG backward. And that is why Jim is so protective of me, and that is why I protect Jim. After Jim won me, he decided that he would like to learn how to install solar panels. He said it would help America become energy independent and that it would help to protect dogs and bears and whales and moose from climate change. Moose are funny. Bears are not funny, except for Winnie the Pooh. But that is another story. I know, you were wondering about how I got kidnapped. I am getting to that. First, you must know how Jim learned how to become a solar installer. We went to Solar Energy International, a solar learning place in Colorado. It was cold there, but I am a husky. Jim got his first job with a solar training place called Grid Alternatives. Jim learned a lot there, and that is how he learned to become a solar installer and to start his solar business. When Jim started his solar company, he did not want to leave me alone. We had traveled together, we had watched movies together, and we had learned solar together. For example, we learned from an organization called IREC, IREC, that there are 20,000 veterans working in the U.S. solar industry today. Wow! Jim found a lot of useful info and job placement and training programs on IREC and the Department of Energy website. There are even solar cybersecurity programs to protect the grid. I have learned more things about solar power, but I know you want to get to my dog napping story. So here is how I, Rufus, became dognapped. First, you must know that I am a solar guard dog, and I am a Jim guard dog, so I go where Jim goes. He keeps me in the solar truck, and I guard the truck. Jim's truck is filled with all the things that Jim and I learned about at solar school. Expensive things. The truck has Jim's tools, Jim's solar panels, Jim's inverters, Jim's racking and mounting systems, and Jim's balance of system stuff, plus Jim's safety harness and Jim's junction boxes. Everything that Jim needs to install solar. That is why I go with Jim and guard Jim's truck. Well, one day, Jim was on a roof and I was guarding the truck. But it was a hot day, so Jim left open the window so that I could stick my head out and not get overheated. Also, Jim thought that my ferocity would deter a thief, even if the window was down. Deter means scare. Grrr. Well, darn it, it happened very quickly. I just remember someone coming close to the truck, and I tried to bark to warn Jim on the roof, but it happened too quickly. It must have been when I was watching Jim that the thief grabbed me and stuffed me into a bag. I kicked my paws and tried to bite the man, but my teeth, well, I grind my teeth, and my jaw was sore. Actually, this is embarrassing for a guard dog, but the truth is that my mouth is sewed closed. But I am sure if Jim ever unsewed my mouth, I would have sharp teeth, and I would have bitten the thief. Anyway, the thief put me in his bag, but he didn't get anything else out of the truck. I guess Jim must have heard me, even though my barks were far away. I heard him call my name. "Rufus! Thief! Give me back my dog! Rufus!" If I had vocal cords, I would have howled with joy and love. Jim called me his dog. No one has ever called me a dog before, except Jim. I guess Jim came down from the roof pretty quickly, and he got into his truck chasing after us. I know I was in a car, but I was in a dark sack. The thief, he was driving very fast, but I think not fast enough. I heard later that Jim used his solar site survey drone to chase the getaway car and take a photograph of the license plate of the car. Of course, the thief did not know anything about solar drones following him. When the thief pulled me out of the bag, he did a very cruel thing. He gave me a bath. I was not dirty. My gray hairs were soft and beautiful. Many nights they were washed with Jim's tears, so I was already clean. After the bath, the thief tortured me with a hot hair dryer. Okay, some of the hot hair felt good on my ears, I will admit, but for sure, the sound of the hair dryer hurt my ears, and if I had vocal cords, I would have howled like this. Howl! Howl! But I do not have vocal cords, and my mouth is sewed shut. So I just let the thief torture me with his hairdryer. After 5 minutes or so, I was mostly dry, and then the thief wrapped me in paper. The crinkling hurt my ears, and then I heard screaming from poor little children. The dog napper had kidnapped children too. I wanted to save them, but I could not because I was tied up in paper. Then the paper was ripped off, but I did not see the kidnapper and dog napper. I just saw a little boy, and he was smiling and happy, and he said, 'Thank you, Daddy.' I felt confused. Daddy had dognapped me. He was very bad. I belonged to Jim, and Jim belonged to me. I missed Jim, and wouldn't you know it, Jim came to rescue me with the police officer. At first, Jim was very mad at Daddy the dognapper, but he and the policeman did not want to frighten the little children. They were not being tortured unless you think 4 candles on a small birthday cake is torture. But I think it's okay. 40 candles, that might be torture for some humans, but there were only 4 for this little boy. Anyway, Jim saw that the daddy dognapper had a military medal on the kitchen wall and a picture of him in Iraq. Jim and the dognapper had never met before, but it seemed like Jim knew him somehow. Jim told the little birthday boy that he needed to borrow me. I think that was his way to say that I was Jim's. But then Jim and I and the policeman went to the carnival. I saw my old carnival master again, and wouldn't you know it, Jim and the dognapper daddy and the policeman played the duck game. And let's just say they freed all my husky brothers and sisters in about 15 minutes. It was a nice reunion to see my husky brothers and sisters, but that is another story. The real story here is that Jim brought back my brother and sister huskies for everyone who was at the birthday party. And then, Jim has such a big heart, he asked the dognapper if he would like to learn how to install solar with me and Jim. The dognapper's name was Don, by the way. And that is how Jim and I and Don got in the news. Even though Jim did not want to press charges against Don, the policeman had called in the dognapping of a real dog, which is me. I am a real dog. The police said so it must be true. Well, because the newspapers like a good dognapping story, they came to Don's house. Then Jim told them the whole story about how I was borrowed for Don's son's birthday party, and because Don did not have a job, that Jim wanted to train Don to be another solar installer and work for Jim. I don't know why Jim and Don started crying and hugging, but it was great for the cameras, and that is my famous dognapping story. Jim and I still live together. I still go in the solar truck with him on installs, and I try to teach Don what I know about solar. Don likes to pet me sometimes too. Don says, "Rufus, you are a good dog," and if he could hear me, I would say back to him, "Thank you, Don. You are a good human, even if you dognapped me." Well, that is my famous dognapping story. If you like it, please share it with others who would like to go solar or to train to be a solar installer like Jim and Don. That was a different kind of solar noir story, but it's definitely a probably true solar story. That is, it's fiction, but those stats about 20,000 military veterans being in the solar industry are real. I'll have a link to that and more information on veterans wanting to transition to the solar industry in the show notes. So what inspired this story? Well, a few things from my own life. In college, I tied a stuffed toy bear to the grill of my Subaru wagon. I don't remember why, I just thought it was funny and maybe would scare away deer on the road at night. The second inspiration was that my brother-in-law gave me and my wife a very large toy husky for Christmas. We call him Rufus, and he is a good boy, and he looks very real for a large stuffed animal. We keep him by our front door, and many visitors get a little startled when they first see him lying on the floor. Our 2 cats are much smaller than Rufus, and they like to play with him. Anyway, I thought about what if Rufus could talk about being the guard dog of a solar installer's truck? And what if he were dognapped? That would make for a great solar noir story. Originally, Rufus was supposed to be a real dog, but then the muses told me to keep him as a stuffed toy, and I wrote the story that you heard very quickly with a dog's voice in mind. If you'd like to see a picture of Rufus, check the episode's show notes, and as always, you'll also find this week's true solar takeaways that separate this story's solar fact from solar fiction. The show notes will also include the links to the organizations mentioned in this episode. Are you liking our solar noir season? I'm glad. Won't you please write a review and share it with a friend who likes a good story? Another way to support the show is to sign up for our newsletter at probablytruesolar.com. Rufus, the Solar Guard Dog, was written and read by Tor, Solarfred, Valenza. And just remember that Probably True Solar Stories is a production of Unthinking Solar, PR, and Communications. Be bold for solar. Stand out and educate. See you next time.